In November 2014, a Chilean Navy helicopter was conducting routine coastal patrol operations when the crew encountered something that would challenge everything they thought they understood about aerial phenomena. The helicopter was flying at approximately 4,500 feet along the coast near Santiago when the crew spotted an unusual object moving parallel to their flight path. What happened next was captured on infrared camera equipment, creating 9 minutes of footage that would later become one of the most analysed pieces of UFO evidence in modern history. The object appeared to be roughly cylindrical in shape with what looked like some form of propulsion system creating a visible plume or trail behind it. But this wasn't exhaust or vapor trail like anything the experienced naval aviators had ever seen before. The crew attempted radio contact with the object multiple times but received no response. Air traffic control confirmed that no scheduled flights were operating in the area, and radar operators reported no conventional aircraft in the vicinity. The object moved with precision and control that suggested intelligent guidance, maintaining steady flight patterns while occasionally performing maneuvers that seemed to defy conventional aerodynamics. What makes this case particularly significant is what happened after the encounter. The Chilean military conducted an exhaustive 2-year investigation involving multiple government agencies, aviation experts, and scientific institutions. They analysed the footage frame by frame, consulted with international specialists, and explored every possible conventional explanation for what their personnel had witnessed. The investigation concluded that the object was genuinely anomalous. It displayed flight characteristics that couldn't be explained by known technology, emitted some form of energy or material that created the visible plume, and operated in controlled airspace without any form of identification or communication. The Chilean government's Committee for the Study of Anomalous Aerial Phenomena officially classified the incident as unexplained. But here's where the story takes an interesting turn. The footage and official findings were never intended for public release. The investigation was conducted under strict secrecy protocols, and the results were classified for national security reasons. It was only through leaked documents and pressure from international UFO research organizations that portions of the evidence eventually became public. Even then, the Chilean military released only selected segments of the footage and heavily redacted versions of their investigative reports. The incident reveals something crucial about how governments actually handle genuinely anomalous encounters. While public statements often dismiss UFO reports as misidentifications or hoaxes, behind closed doors, serious scientific investigation takes place. Military and intelligence agencies dedicate significant resources to studying these phenomena, but the results rarely see the light of day. What the Chilean case demonstrates is that somewhere in classified files around the world, there exists substantial evidence for aerial phenomena that display capabilities beyond current human technology. The footage shows an object that appears to manipulate its environment in ways that conventional physics can't easily explain, operating with flight characteristics that suggest propulsion systems fundamentally different from anything in our current aerospace inventory. The Japanese Defense Ministry's sudden policy reversal in 2020 represents another crack in the wall of official secrecy. For decades, Japan had maintained an absolute denial policy regarding UFO encounters. Military personnel who reported unusual aerial phenomena faced career consequences, and official policy stated that no such encounters had ever occurred in Japanese airspace. This changed dramatically when Defense Minister Taro Kono issued new directives instructing Japanese Self-Defense Forces personnel to document and report any encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena. The policy shift came after a meeting between Japanese and American defense officials where UFOs were reportedly discussed as a matter of mutual security concern. What makes this reversal particularly revealing is the context that emerged afterward. Former Japanese military pilots began speaking publicly about encounters they had kept secret for years. Wing Commander Mamoru Sato revealed that pilot reports of cigar-shaped objects and unusual aerial phenomena had been circulating within Japanese military circles for decades. But these incidents were never officially acknowledged or investigated. Sato described incidents where student pilots had lost control of their aircraft after encountering unknown objects, where experienced aviators had witnessed technologies that seemed to operate outside known aerodynamic principles, and where radar operators had tracked objects displaying impossible flight characteristics. These reports had been filed and forgotten, buried in classified archives where they couldn't influence public understanding of the phenomenon. The sudden policy change suggests that classified intelligence sharing between allied nations had revealed something significant enough to override decades of official denial. When governments that have maintained absolute secrecy suddenly reverse course and begin acknowledging the reality of unexplained aerial encounters, it indicates that the evidence has reached a threshold where continued denial becomes impossible. The timing of Japan's policy shift, occurring just months after the US, Pentagon's official acknowledgement of UFO encounters, suggests coordinated disclosure of information that was never meant to reach public awareness. The establishment of Japan's Space Operations Squadron and their new mandate to investigate aerial anomalies represents a fundamental shift from denial to active investigation of phenomena that officially didn't exist just years earlier. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of these revelations is what they imply about the scope of classified information still hidden from public view. If governments are willing to acknowledge some encounters while maintaining strict secrecy protocols, it suggests that the cases being revealed represent only a small fraction of what intelligence agencies actually know about these phenomena. The pattern emerging from these official acknowledgements is clear. Military personnel around the world have been encountering and documenting aerial phenomena with extraordinary capabilities for decades. These encounters have been studied, analysed, and filed away in classified databases, while public statements maintained that no such incidents occurred. The recent shift toward limited disclosure suggests that the accumulated evidence has become too substantial to ignore, but also indicates that much more dramatic encounters remain hidden in classified vaults. What we're witnessing isn't accidental disclosure, but carefully managed revelation of information that was never supposed to reach public consciousness. Each acknowledged encounter represents a calculated decision to reveal specific details while maintaining strict control over what remains secret. The question isn't whether governments possess evidence of extraordinary aerial phenomena, but rather what encounters were so significant that they remain buried under the highest levels of classification. The Admiral Byrd Antarctic expedition stands as one of the most controversial and heavily suppressed encounters in modern military history. In August 1946, Admiral Richard Byrd led Operation High Jump, officially described as a routine Antarctic mapping mission involving 13 ships, 23 aircraft, and over 4,700 military personnel. But what actually transpired during those months in Antarctica was far from routine, and the true nature of Byrd's discoveries was immediately classified at the highest levels of government secrecy. According to documents that surfaced decades later, Operation High Jump was abruptly terminated in February 1947, months ahead of schedule. The official explanation cited equipment failures and adverse weather conditions, but personnel who participated in the mission told a very different story. They described encounters with aerial phenomena displaying flight characteristics that defied conventional understanding of aerodynamics and propulsion technology. The most explosive revelations came from what appeared to be Admiral Byrd's personal diary, discovered after his death and never intended for public release. These documents described encounters with highly advanced aerial craft that emerged from beneath the Antarctic ice, demonstrating capabilities that seemed decades ahead of any known military technology. The craft reportedly moved at impossible speeds, made 90-degree turns without losing velocity, and appeared to be completely silent during operation. But the diary entries went far beyond simple aircraft sightings. Byrd allegedly documented contact with beings who expressed deep concern about humanity's recent development of nuclear weapons. These entities reportedly demonstrated detailed knowledge of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and warned about the potential consequences of continued nuclear weapons development. The timing is particularly significant, as Byrd's expedition occurred just months after the first atomic bombs were detonated, marking the beginning of the nuclear age. What makes these revelations particularly disturbing is the pattern of suppression that followed. Byrd was reportedly debriefed by government officials immediately upon his return and instructed never to discuss his Antarctic experiences publicly. Personnel from Operation High Jump were transferred to different assignments, sworn to secrecy, and threatened with court-martial if they revealed what they had witnessed. All documentation related to the expedition's true findings was classified under national security protocols that remain in effect today. The systematic erasure of evidence extended beyond simple classification. Researchers who later attempted to investigate Operation High Jump found that crucial documents had been destroyed, witness testimonies had been sealed, and even basic logistical records had been removed from military archives. The level of suppression suggests that whatever Byrd encountered in Antarctica was deemed so significant that it required the complete elimination of all evidence from the historical record. Independent analysis of available documentation reveals disturbing inconsistencies in the official narrative. Operation High Jump was supposedly a mapping mission, yet the military personnel involved were combat veterans rather than cartographers or scientists. The expedition included advanced military equipment and weapon systems that seemed excessive for a peaceful exploration mission. Most tellingly, the operation was terminated abruptly with no explanation provided to the families of personnel involved. The Men in Black phenomenon represents another category of suppressed encounters that demonstrates the lengths to which unknown agencies will go to silence witnesses of extraordinary events. In 1953, Albert Bender was operating one of the most influential UFO research organizations in the United States when he experienced a visitation that would effectively end serious civilian UFO investigation for decades. Bender had been documenting and publishing accounts of UFO encounters through his International Flying Saucer Bureau, which had gained thousands of subscribers and was becoming a significant force in UFO research. His publication, The Space Review, was providing a platform for witnesses to share their experiences and was beginning to identify patterns in the phenomenon that suggested organized activity rather than random sightings. The encounter that ended Bender's research occurred when 3 entities materialized in his bedroom during the night. These beings were described as wearing dark clothing and hats, possessing glowing eyes, and emitting a sulfurous odor that filled the room. They communicated telepathically, warning Bender to cease his UFO investigations immediately and to stop publishing the Space Review. The psychological impact was so severe that Bender became physically ill and couldn't eat for days following the encounter. What makes this case particularly significant is that it established a pattern of intimidation that would be repeated countless times over the following decades. UFO researchers, witnesses, and investigators began reporting similar encounters with mysterious figures who seemed to possess detailed knowledge of their activities and the power to enforce their demands for silence. These men in black appeared to operate outside normal government channels, yet possessed authority that could override civilian law enforcement and military protocols. The systematic nature of these intimidation campaigns suggests coordination at levels far above normal intelligence operations. Witnesses described encounters with figures who seemed to know intimate details of their personal lives, who could appear and disappear without detection, and who possessed technology that seemed decades ahead of publicly available equipment. The psychological warfare techniques employed were sophisticated and effective, often resulting in complete cessation of UFO-related activities by their targets. The Rendlesham Forest incident of December 1980 represents perhaps the most thoroughly documented military encounter with anomalous phenomena that was never supposed to become public knowledge. US Air Force personnel stationed at RAF Bentwaters witnessed and interacted with unknown craft over multiple nights, creating a paper trail of evidence that military officials spent decades trying to suppress. The encounter began when security personnel observed unusual lights in the forest beyond the base perimeter. Initial investigation revealed a triangular craft that appeared to be of non-human origin, displaying symbols or markings that resembled hieroglyphic writing. Staff Sergeant James Peniston made physical contact with the object and reported receiving what he described as a download of binary code directly into his consciousness. Years later, when this binary code was analyzed by computer specialists, it revealed a message claiming to be from time travelers from the year 8100, suggesting that the encounter might represent contact with future human technology rather than extraterrestrial visitors. The implications of this revelation were staggering, as it suggested that time travel technology might already exist and be in use by advanced human civilizations from the future. The military response to the Rendlesham incident followed the standard pattern of suppression and denial. Witnesses were debriefed, transferred to different assignments, and instructed never to discuss their experiences. Official reports were classified, and the incident was dismissed as a misidentification of conventional phenomena. However, the volume of documentation and the credibility of the witnesses made complete suppression impossible. What emerged through leaked documents and witness testimonies revealed an encounter of extraordinary significance. Multiple trained military observers had documented contact with technology that displayed capabilities far beyond anything in the known aerospace inventory. The craft demonstrated controlled flight without visible propulsion systems, the ability to manipulate electromagnetic fields, and what appeared to be some form of consciousness interface technology that could transmit information directly into human minds. The long-term effects on witnesses suggest that the encounter involved more than simple observation of unusual aircraft. Personnel reported ongoing health issues, psychological changes, and recurring dreams or visions related to their experiences. These symptoms are consistent with exposure to unknown forms of energy or technology that had lasting physiological and neurological impacts. The pattern of evidence suppression surrounding these encounters reveals a coordinated effort to prevent public awareness of phenomena that challenge fundamental assumptions about human technology and our place in the universe. When military personnel with top security clearances and decades of experience report encounters with technologies that seem to operate outside known physical laws, and when these reports are systematically classified and hidden from public view, it suggests that the truth about these phenomena is far more extraordinary than official statements acknowledge. The consistency of suppression tactics across different incidents, countries, and time periods indicates that there exists a global infrastructure dedicated to managing information about these encounters. This system appears to operate independently of normal government oversight, possessing the authority to classify evidence, silence witnesses, and control the narrative surrounding extraordinary phenomena. What emerges from these suppression efforts is a disturbing picture of institutional control over information that could fundamentally alter human understanding of reality. The encounters we've examined so far represent only the tip of an iceberg that extends far deeper into classified territory than most people realize. But the story doesn't end with government cover-ups and intimidated witnesses. Some of the most significant encounters involve discoveries that were made by accident, stumbled upon by researchers who were looking for something entirely different. The Russian Ural Mountains discovery represents one of these accidental revelations that was never meant to see daylight. In 1991, geologists conducting routine mineral surveys at depths exceeding 30 feet uncovered something that would challenge everything we thought we knew about the history of technology on Earth. Scattered throughout the excavation site were thousands of microscopic metallic objects, each one precisely manufactured with a level of sophistication that shouldn't have existed at the time of their deposition. Under electron microscope analysis, these objects revealed themselves to be intricate spirals, coils, and mechanical components constructed from tungsten and molybdenum. The precision of their manufacture was extraordinary, with some components measuring less than 1/10,000th of an inch in diameter. What made these discoveries truly anomalous was their age. Geological dating placed these artifacts at over 50,000 years old, predating any known human civilization capable of such sophisticated manufacturing. The implications were staggering. Here was physical evidence of advanced technology existing on Earth tens of thousands of years before humans. The same materials used in modern NASA supposedly developed the capability to work with metals at 1,000 degrees to work. These are this level of precision, the temperatures exceeding 5 degrees Fahrenheit. The artifacts concluded that they were artificial materials themselves were significant as well. Tungsten has spacecraft construction, chosen for their exceptional durability and heatily manufactured rather than natural formations. The spiral degrees Fahrenheit and molybdenum requires a melting point of over 6,000 resistance. Russian scientists who analyze patterns and mechanical configurations showed clear evidence of intentional design and engineering principles that wouldn't be developed by human technology for thousands of years. Yet here they were, buried deep in the earth, and dated to a time when human civilization was supposedly limited to stone tools and basic agriculture. The discovery raised profound questions about the nature of technological development on Earth. Had there been previous advanced civilizations that had risen and fallen without leaving traces in the archaeological record? Were these artifacts evidence of extraterrestrial visitation in the distant past? Or did they represent something even more extraordinary, perhaps debris from craft that had traveled through time as well as space? What makes this discovery particularly significant is the pattern of similar findings that have emerged from locations around the world. The Ural Mountains artifacts aren't unique. Similar microscopic manufactured objects have been discovered in geological formations across multiple continents, always at depths and ages that place them far outside the accepted timeline of human technological development. The systematic suppression of research into these artifacts follows the familiar pattern we've seen with other extraordinary discoveries. Scientific papers detailing the findings have been blocked from publication in mainstream journals. Researchers who have attempted to conduct follow-up investigations have found their funding withdrawn and their access to the sites restricted. The artifacts themselves have been confiscated by government agencies and removed from public examination. But perhaps the most telling aspect of the suppression is the complete absence of these discoveries from mainstream archaeological and historical narratives. Despite their profound implications for human history and technological development, the Ural Mountains artifacts remain virtually unknown outside specialized research circles. This suggests a coordinated effort to prevent public awareness of evidence that challenges fundamental assumptions about the development of civilization on Earth. The pattern extends beyond individual discoveries to encompass entire categories of evidence that don't fit conventional historical timelines. Ancient structures displaying advanced engineering techniques, artifacts showing sophisticated metallurgy, and technological knowledge preserved in historical texts that shouldn't have been available to ancient civilizations. All of this evidence exists, has been documented, and then quietly disappears from public discourse. Moving from ancient mysteries to modern encounters, the ECETI Ranch incident represents a different category of suppressed information. Located in the Pacific Northwest, this facility has been the site of systematic observation and documentation of aerial phenomena for over 3 decades. What makes ECETI unique is their approach to studying these encounters, combining traditional scientific observation with experimental consciousness research techniques. The ranch has hosted scientists from Boeing, NASA, and Lockheed's Skunk Works division, all conducting classified research into phenomena that officially don't exist. Remote viewing experiments conducted at the facility have produced results that correlate with physical observations of aerial phenomena, suggesting connections between consciousness and the manifestation of these encounters that mainstream science isn't prepared to acknowledge. Former British intelligence officer Nick Pope participated in field research at ECETI, combining traditional surveillance methods with remote viewing protocols. The results were extraordinary. Remote viewers working in isolation, armed only with random numerical coordinates, produced detailed sketches and descriptions that matched real-time observations of aerial phenomena occurring miles away. The correlation between psychic impressions and physical reality was too consistent to dismiss as coincidence. What emerged from this research was evidence that consciousness itself might play a role in these encounters. Remote viewers reported contact with intelligences that seemed to respond to human observation, as if the act of focused attention could influence the manifestation of phenomena. This suggests that the relationship between humans and these aerial phenomena might be far more complex and interactive than simple observation of external objects. The implications of consciousness-based contact protocols are profound. If human awareness and intention can influence the appearance and behavior of these phenomena, it suggests that the encounters aren't random, but represent some form of intentional communication. The beings or intelligences behind these manifestations might be using human consciousness as a bridge for contact, operating through channels that bypass conventional physical limitations. Government interest in consciousness research related to UFO phenomena has a long history that traces back to classified programs developed during the Cold War. Remote viewing projects conducted by military intelligence agencies achieved remarkable results in gathering information about distant targets through psychic means. The success of these programs led to expanded research into the relationship between consciousness and anomalous phenomena. What makes the ECETI research particularly significant is its documentation of controlled experiments that demonstrate repeatable results. Unlike random UFO sightings that can't be predicted or controlled, the consciousness-based protocols developed at the ranch allow researchers to initiate contact with phenomena on demand. This represents a fundamental shift from passive observation to active communication with whatever intelligences are behind these encounters. The suppression of consciousness research extends beyond UFO phenomena to encompass entire fields of study that challenge materialist assumptions about the nature of reality. Research into psychic phenomena, consciousness survival after death, and the relationship between mind and physical reality has been systematically excluded from mainstream scientific institutions, despite producing compelling evidence for phenomena that don't fit conventional paradigms. The pattern suggests that the suppression isn't just about hiding evidence of extraterrestrial contact, but about maintaining control over fundamental assumptions about the nature of human consciousness and its relationship to reality. If human awareness can influence physical phenomena, if consciousness can transcend the limitations of space and time, and if contact with non-human intelligences is possible through mental, rather than technological means, then the implications extend far beyond UFO encounters into the very foundations of human understanding. The Roswell debris analysis conducted by geological professor Frank Kimbler represents another category of evidence that was never meant to reach public awareness. For nearly a decade, Kimbler has systematically searched areas beneath the purported trajectory of the 1947 crash using sophisticated metal detection equipment and infrared technology. What he has discovered challenges official narratives about what fell from the sky that July night in New Mexico. The metal fragments recovered from the desert floor display properties that don't match any known terrestrial materials. Spectroscopic analysis reveals unusual isotopic ratios and elemental compositions that suggest manufacturing processes beyond current human capability. The fragments show evidence of extreme heat exposure and mechanical stress consistent with high-speed impact, but their molecular structure remains intact in ways that conventional metallurgy can't explain. What makes Kimbler's discoveries particularly compelling is their distribution pattern across the desert floor. The debris field extends for miles, following a trajectory that matches witness accounts of a craft skipping across the landscape before finally coming to rest. The concentration of materials at specific points along this path suggests multiple impact sites, consistent with reports of an object that crashed, bounced back into the air, and crashed again before finally stopping. Independent analysis of the fragments has confirmed their anomalous nature. The materials include elements and alloys that weren't available to human technology in 1947. arranged in molecular structures that demonstrate manufacturing techniques decades ahead of what was possible at the time. Some fragments show evidence of being part of larger engineered components, with precise tolerances and joining methods that suggest advanced assembly processes. The official response to Kimbler's discoveries follows the familiar pattern of suppression and denial. Attempts to publish his findings in scientific journals have been blocked. Government agencies have restricted access to the crash site area. Research funding for follow-up analysis has been mysteriously withdrawn. The message is clear: this evidence is not supposed to exist, and efforts to study it will not be tolerated. But the most disturbing aspect of the Roswell debris analysis is what it reveals about the scope of material evidence that has been systematically removed from the crash site over the decades. Kimbler's discoveries represent fragments that were missed during the original military cleanup operation. If these tiny pieces of debris display such extraordinary properties, what capabilities might the larger components possess that were recovered and classified in 1947? The pattern of evidence suggests that the Roswell incident involved technology so far advanced beyond human capability that its existence had to be completely erased from public awareness. The debris that Kimbler continues to find represents physical proof that something extraordinary crashed in the New Mexico desert, something that possessed material science and engineering capabilities that we're only beginning to understand today. What emerges from these scattered fragments is evidence of manufacturing processes that manipulate matter at the atomic level. The molecular structures show signs of precision assembly that wouldn't become theoretically possible until the development of nanotechnology decades later. Yet here they lie, scattered across a desert floor since 1947, representing technology that officially never existed. The broader implications extend far beyond a single crash site. If advanced materials were falling from the sky over 70 years ago, it suggests that whoever was operating these craft possessed technology that remains beyond our current capabilities. The systematic removal of this evidence indicates that government agencies understood the revolutionary implications of these materials and took extraordinary measures to prevent their study by civilian scientists. The Vietnam War era brought its own category of suppressed encounters, ones that occurred in the midst of active combat operations where secrecy was already the norm. Deep in the jungle caves of Southeast Asia, American soldiers reported encounters with beings that defied conventional understanding of terrestrial life forms. These accounts were buried in classified after-action reports and dismissed as combat stress or misidentification of local wildlife. The Sun Dong cave system in Vietnam represents one of the most extraordinary underground environments on Earth. Discovered in the 1990s but only fully explored decades later, this massive subterranean complex contains entire ecosystems that have evolved in isolation for millions of years. The cave system extends for miles beneath the Vietnamese mountains, creating a hidden world that exists parallel to the surface environment. What makes these caves particularly intriguing are the consistent reports from both military personnel and local populations of encounters with humanoid beings that don't match any known species. These entities are described as reptilian in appearance, possessing intelligence and technology that suggests advanced civilization existing beneath the Earth's surface. The encounters follow patterns that are remarkably consistent across different witnesses and time periods. Military reports from the Vietnam conflict describe soldiers encountering upright lizard-like beings in underground tunnel systems. These entities appeared to be using the cave networks for transportation and habitation, possessing knowledge of the underground geography that far exceeded human understanding. Some reports describe technology that seemed to manipulate the cave environment itself, creating passages where none had existed before. The systematic suppression of these reports follows familiar patterns. Soldiers who filed encounter reports found their testimonies classified and their accounts dismissed as hallucinations or misidentifications. Officers who attempted to investigate these incidents were reassigned or found their security clearances revoked. The message was clear that certain types of encounters were not to be officially acknowledged or investigated, but the pattern of suppression extends beyond military encounters to encompass civilian reports from around the world. Cave systems in Peru, Mexico, and other locations have generated similar accounts of reptilian humanoid beings living in underground environments. Local populations often have ancient traditions that describe these entities as guardians or inhabitants of the inner earth, suggesting that such encounters have been occurring for generations. The consistency of these reports across different cultures and geographical locations indicates that something extraordinary may indeed be inhabiting the vast underground cave systems that exist beneath our feet. These environments represent some of the least explored regions on Earth, containing ecosystems and possibly even civilizations that have developed independently of surface conditions. The implications of inner Earth civilizations challenge fundamental assumptions about the distribution of intelligent life on our planet. If advanced beings have been living in underground environments for extended periods, they would possess knowledge of Earth's geological and biological systems that far exceeds our current understanding. Their perspective on surface civilization and its impact on planetary systems would be unique and potentially valuable. The suppression of inner Earth encounter reports suggests that acknowledging the existence of such civilizations would raise uncomfortable questions about territorial sovereignty, resource rights, and the relationship between surface and subterranean populations. If intelligent beings have prior claims to underground territories, it could complicate mining operations, underground construction projects, and military installations that extend below ground. Moving from underground encounters to underwater mysteries, the ocean depths represent another frontier where extraordinary discoveries have been systematically suppressed. The deep sea contains environments as alien as any extraterrestrial world, and it's in these depths that some of the most compelling evidence for non-human intelligence has been discovered and subsequently classified. Naval sonar operators have been documenting anomalous underwater objects for decades. These craft display propulsion capabilities that seem to violate the laws of physics as we understand them, moving through water at speeds that should create cavitation effects, but somehow don't. They demonstrate the ability to transition seamlessly between underwater and aerial environments, without any apparent adjustment for the dramatic change in medium density. The patterns of movement displayed by these underwater craft suggest intelligence and purpose rather than natural phenomena. They appear to follow established routes through ocean basins, gathering at specific locations that may represent underwater installations or bases. Their behavior indicates familiarity with Earth's ocean systems and the ability to navigate complex underwater terrain with precision. Military encounters with underwater anomalies have been systematically classified at the highest levels of secrecy. Naval personnel who report these sightings face the same pattern of intimidation and career consequences that have silenced witnesses of aerial phenomena. The technology demonstrated by these craft represents capabilities that would revolutionize underwater exploration and transportation if it could be understood and replicated. The suppression of underwater UFO encounters extends to civilian research as well. Ocean exploration teams that have detected anomalous objects or structures have found their funding withdrawn and their access to research sites restricted. Commercial fishing operations that have reported encounters with unusual underwater craft have been pressured to remain silent about their experiences. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of underwater UFO phenomena is their apparent connection to known areas of geological instability and unusual electromagnetic activity. Many underwater encounters occur near volcanic regions, deep ocean trenches, and areas where tectonic plates meet. This suggests that these craft may be monitoring or interacting with Earth's geological processes in ways that we don't yet understand. The technology required to operate effectively in deep ocean environments represents engineering challenges that human science is only beginning to address. The pressure, corrosion, and navigation difficulties of deep-sea operations make it one of the most demanding environments for technological systems. Yet these craft appear to operate in deep ocean conditions with ease, suggesting propulsion and construction methods that solve problems we're still struggling with. The pattern of suppression surrounding underwater encounters indicates that whatever agencies are controlling information about these phenomena understand their significance for human understanding of both our planet and the intelligences that may share it with us. The oceans represent the largest unexplored territory on Earth, and if advanced civilizations are operating in these environments, they possess knowledge about our planet that could revolutionize human understanding of Earth's systems. The Antarctic discoveries that followed Admiral Byrd's expedition continue to generate encounters that are immediately classified and removed from public awareness. Modern research expeditions to Antarctica have reported technologies and phenomena that suggest the continent holds secrets far more extraordinary than anyone imagined. These discoveries are systematically suppressed through international agreements that classify Antarctica as off-limits to independent investigation. Research stations across Antarctica have documented electromagnetic anomalies that don't correspond to any known geological phenomena. These energy signatures suggest the presence of artificial systems operating beneath the ice, possibly representing technology that has been active for extended periods. The scale and consistency of these anomalies indicate installations of considerable size and sophistication. Ice core samples from various Antarctic locations have revealed materials and structures that shouldn't exist in natural ice formations. These discoveries include metallic objects, unusual crystalline structures, and biological materials that don't match any known terrestrial life forms. The systematic classification of these findings prevents scientific analysis that could reveal their true nature and origin. Satellite imagery of Antarctica shows geographical features that appear to be artificial rather than natural formations. These structures are immediately classified and removed from publicly available satellite databases. But their existence suggests that the continent may harbour installations or ruins that challenge conventional understanding of human history and technological development. The international treaties that govern Antarctic research create a framework for suppressing discoveries that are deemed too sensitive for public awareness. Scientific expeditions that make extraordinary discoveries find their findings classified under national security protocols, regardless of their civilian research status. This creates a system where the most significant discoveries about our planet's most remote continent never reach scientific literature or public knowledge. The pattern of Antarctic suppression suggests that the continent serves as a laboratory for studying phenomena that are too sensitive to investigate in more accessible locations. The extreme isolation and harsh conditions create natural barriers to independent investigation, while international agreements provide legal frameworks for maintaining secrecy about whatever is being discovered there. But the most disturbing aspect of Antarctic suppression is the indication that discoveries made there could fundamentally alter human understanding of our planet's history and our place in the universe. The level of secrecy surrounding Antarctic research suggests that what's being found there is so extraordinary that it requires complete isolation from public awareness. The cumulative weight of these suppressed encounters creates a picture of a reality far stranger and more complex than official narratives acknowledge. From ancient artifacts that predate known civilization to modern encounters with technologies that transcend current scientific understanding, the pattern of evidence suggests that human beings share this planet with intelligences that possess capabilities we're only beginning to glimpse. The systematic suppression of this evidence isn't random or accidental. It represents a coordinated effort to maintain control over information that could transform human understanding of reality itself. The agencies and institutions responsible for this suppression operate with resources and authority that extend far beyond normal government oversight, suggesting that the truth about these encounters is considered too dangerous for public knowledge. What emerges from the shadows of suppression is evidence that we live in a far more extraordinary universe than we've been allowed to understand. The encounters we've examined represent only the fragments of truth that have managed to escape the machinery of secrecy. But even these glimpses reveal a reality where advanced intelligences operate alongside human civilization, where technologies exist that could solve humanity's greatest challenges, and where the boundaries between possible and impossible are far more fluid than we've been taught to believe. The 10 encounters we've explored today represent more than isolated incidents of suppressed information. They form a pattern that reveals the true scope of what's being hidden from humanity. From the Chilean Navy's infrared footage that was never meant to see daylight to the microscopic artifacts buried in Russian mountains for 50,000 years. From Admiral Byrd's classified Antarctic discoveries to the consciousness-based contact protocols developed at remote research facilities, each case demonstrates that we're living in a reality far more extraordinary than official narratives acknowledge. What unites these suppressed encounters isn't their strangeness, but the systematic response they generate. The machinery of secrecy operates with precision across decades and continents, employing identical tactics to silence witnesses, classify evidence, and maintain public ignorance about phenomena that could revolutionize human understanding of our place in the universe. This isn't accidental. It's a coordinated effort to control information that challenges the fundamental assumptions upon which our current civilization is built. The truth isn't hidden because these encounters didn't happen. It's hidden because they did happen, and their implications are so profound that they threaten existing power structures, economic systems, and belief frameworks that depend on artificial scarcity and limited human potential. The technologies witnessed in these encounters could transform energy production, transportation, medicine, and our understanding of consciousness itself. But that transformation would render obsolete the industries and institutions that currently control human society. Perhaps most disturbing is the realization that we're not just dealing with government secrecy, but with a shadow infrastructure that operates beyond normal oversight, possessing the authority to override civilian law enforcement, military protocols, and scientific institutions. This system has been active for decades, possibly centuries, ensuring that humanity remains isolated from knowledge that could accelerate our development and expand our understanding of reality. The encounters that manage to surface despite this suppression represent only the tip of an iceberg that extends far deeper into classified territory than most people realize. In underground vaults and secret facilities around the world, evidence exists that could rewrite human history, transform our understanding of physics, and reveal that we share this universe with intelligences whose capabilities dwarf our current technological achievements. But the story doesn't end with suppression and secrecy. These leaked encounters, whistleblower testimonies, and accidentally discovered artifacts represent cracks in a wall that's becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. The truth has a way of surfacing, and each revelation makes it harder to sustain the official narrative of denial and debunking that has controlled public perception for so long. We stand at a threshold where the accumulated weight of suppressed evidence is beginning to overwhelm the systems designed to contain it. The question isn't whether extraordinary encounters are occurring, but how much longer the truth can be kept from the people who deserve to know what's really happening in their world. The 10 encounters we've examined today prove that reality is far stranger, far more hopeful, and far more extraordinary than we've been allowed to believe.